Cash, it's the only asset class that's guaranteed to lose you money. As far as saving and investments are concerned, when it comes to cash, cash is trash. Over the years, I've read a lot of material from Grant Cardone and watched many of his videos, and the man that talks about 10xing everything, I love the principle, and this is something I really like, that you need to think bigger, and he certainly thinks big. And a few years ago, I had a privilege of meeting him in London for a private meeting with a small group of us, and one of the things he said to us was, cash is trash. At the moment, I thought probably exactly what you're thinking now. That makes no sense. How can cash be trash? It took me a little while to comprehend, but the point he was trying to make is holding onto cash is pretty much pointless because it's not going to do anything for you. You need to have it out there working for you, earning money. And he talked about this principle. All these Elizabeths that we have sitting around, they're no good having them under the mattress. All these Elizabeths need to be out there working for us, and for us what that means is they need to be tied up in property, making money from property. Because if you just have money sitting around, inflation is going to kill your wealth. However, inflation can also make you wealthy if you understand how to use it. Hey, if you're watching my videos for the first time, my name is Saj Hussain, and on this channel, I share with you my 15 plus years of property investing experience to ultimately help you get further faster in your own property investing journey. When it comes to inflation, people can often be unsure of what the impact it's going to have in terms of them, but more particularly on their property business. The reality is inflation, in its most simplest terms, is the devaluing of money. So what that means is, let's say you've got £10,000 sitting around right now and you do nothing with that money for a year. In 1 year's time, that £10,000 is going to be able to buy you less than what that £10,000 can buy you today. That's effectively inflation. So how's inflation measured and how is it calculated? There are two rates of inflation. One is the one the government tell us at what rate it's running at, and the other one is the true rate of inflation. The first one is a skewed version that the government comes up with to really suit their means and also not to panic the country in terms of what rate of inflation we're actually running at. And the second, the more true rate is, well, it's quite simple for you to work this out yourself. If you look at how much you're paying for certain things right now compared to what you were paying for those things maybe a year ago, that might be your utilities, your gas, your electric, that could be your groceries, that could be a tank of fuel, various things. If you look at what you're paying for those things now compared to what they might have cost a year ago, that's really inflation, and that's probably more like 10% in terms of what it's running at. The government tells us it's probably running at about 7%. The reality is it's probably significantly more. When we look at our costs of materials that we're using for our property renovations, refurbs, builds that we're doing, they are significantly higher. In some cases, 30-40% higher than they were, say, maybe 18 months or 2 years ago. There are also two types of inflation. The first one is a cost pull inflation. And what that means is your general overall cost of production rise and things become more expensive. That's one type of inflation. The other type is demand pull inflation, and that's really driven by there's much more demand for certain products than there is available of supply in the marketplace, and that pushes up prices, which is essentially what's happened to house prices. And when we look at lockdown, the impact that's had in terms of availability of materials, raw materials going through the supply chain, things being difficult to be able to produce, things like shortage of semiconductors, that's impacting computer equipment, all other electronics, cars even. All of these things have been impacted because there's a shortage of supply in the marketplace which can't keep up to the level of demand that's there. Then the recent events with Russia and Ukraine really haven't helped the situation because these will impact us negatively and make the situation a whole lot worse. If you've got £10,000 sitting around right now in the bank are probably paying you about 0.5% in terms of interest on that money. That means at the end of the year, in 12 months time, you would have £10,050, i.e. your original capital, plus the 0.5% interest they've given you for the privilege of utilizing your money. However, when you take inflation into consideration, let's say inflation is running at say 10%, that means that the buying power of that money has decreased. Although you would have £10,500 in the bank, the buying power of that money will probably only be around £9,000. Ultimately, what that means is by not investing your money and not making your money work for you, you are losing money, you are throwing it out the window. You may as well throw it in a fire and be burning it. This is why I'm such a big advocate of investing in property. If you've got your cash parked in bricks and mortar, not only do you get the steady rise in value from property, you get an income that you create from that, but that also outstrips many other forms of safe investment that you can actually invest your money in. In stocks and shares, yes, you can make a lot more money. In crypto, you can make maybe way more money, but the risks are significantly higher than when it comes to bricks and mortar. It's not really about return on capital, it's about return of capital. Your money is safe and much safer than many other investments and assets when it comes to investing your money in property. So you might be wondering right now, how does inflation impact property? So I'm glad you're thinking that, because inflation is actually beneficial for us. What it does, it drives up prices. So if you're buying property now, that property is going to be worth more because it's rising very quickly, as we've experienced that with house price rises just even in the last year or so. However, if you're sitting on the sidelines and waiting around and waiting for the market to crash, or waiting for that perfect deal to come along, or waiting for unicorns, then you're going to be waiting around for a long time, and your money is going to be decreasing in value because you're not getting in the game and you're not getting started, and you're not going to benefit from the impact of inflation on house prices and the rise in values. Now, let's say you're going to use leverage to buy property. So for example, it might be using a mortgage, or maybe you're even using private investor money where it's not a traditional loan, it might even be a joint venture. However, because you've got less of your own money in the deal and you're leveraging somebody else's money, the bank's money or a private individual's money, you're getting a double whammy. Not only are you making your investment in that deal work harder because it's being leveraged, but also you're benefiting from inflation as well. And remember, you're still creating an income from that property as well. For me, that's utopia. Can't think of a better scenario in terms of investing and getting a great return. And if you think of anything better than that, as long as it's not crypto, then comment below. Let me know what it is that you think can produce a better return. As you know, I'm a big fan of property. I think property can make you super rich over time. It's not a get rich quick scheme. Now, before we finish, I want to give you 5 quick things that you can do to protect yourself against inflation. The first is, when you're doing your due diligence and your appraisals on deals, make sure you're using finance calculations at a rate of 6%. So traditional financing has been at that rate for a very long time. Recently, things have been much, much lower and we've got used to that, but that is not the norm, because inflation also will start pushing up interest rates, as we started to see a rise happening recently. So you need to make sure your calculations are realistic. Number 2 is, if you are using mortgages, then consider fixing those interest rates to give you some certainty. And so that means when your income is coming in, it's more predictable because your costs are fixed, as opposed to not knowing what's going to happen to interest rates and your mortgage interest rates over the next few years. Yes, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. However, it will give you the confidence and the certainty of your income. Number 3 is to diversify, and that is to consider other alternative investments as well. Yes, I know I'm a big fan of property. That doesn't mean you should shove all your money in property and not have any other investments to hedge against as well. So consider alternative investments as well. But my preference is to keep those lower risk, because your higher risk stuff, yes, you can produce higher returns, but you should also be open to potentially losing that money as well. Number 4 is to get smart on your expenses and review your expenditure, what you're paying for things, particularly things on a regular basis, and see what you can do to negotiate those down. It's so easy to do that. The thing is, in our culture, in this country, what happens is we just accept whatever price is given to us. But I can promise you, if you start getting into a habit of asking what discount is available, most of the time there won't be, but on some occasions it will be. Just by asking the question, you'll get a reduction. Just this morning, we renewed one of the services that we use, and it's about £400 we pay per year for that. And I just asked the question, hey, and what discounts available for being a long-term loyal customer? And the answer was, I don't know, I'm gonna have to ask the manager. I said, great, ask the manager and email me back, let me know. I'm assuming there will be, and maybe there isn't. What happens a few minutes later, I get an email back and say, yes, for being a loyal customer, I'll give you 10% discount. Now, it's only about 40 quid, but the point is, if you don't ask a question, you don't get. So we should get really smart on looking at our expenses and what we're paying for things. Number 5 is my most favorite one, and that's to start supersizing your income. Concentrate on how you can generate more income. Because yes, you might have a bucket that's got some holes in it, but if you can fill that bucket faster with more water in it, then you don't need to worry so much about the holes. Yes, you can plug some of those holes, but if you're making way more than you're spending, you're going to be in a much stronger position. And of course, we can help you with that with property investing. If you want to learn more about investing, specific strategies, just reach out to us. We've got a number of workshops now that we're running. We've got our own training center set up, so we've got lots of different programs running that can really help you accelerate your property investing journey. If you want to learn more about the impacts inflation has on property, then the good news is I've got another video for you. It's over here, but just before you go and click on that and watch that video, make sure you do me a favor, click on my face down here to subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free. You've got amazing content on this channel just for you. So let's go and watch this video now, and I'll see you there.